What is Australia? Sure, a country, a continent, a culturally diverse nation with a rich sporting heritage, among being other exemplary things, and also that unstoppable force in women's cricket that tramples every opposition under its feet with the kind of disdain that leaves the opponents drained, deflated, disgusted even at their own mediocrity. That is perhaps how India must be feeling right now, because a 4-1 hammering on home soil at the hands of world champions Australia doesn't quite inspire a lot of confidence if you are to consider the fact that in about 2 months from now, India might face Australia at the T20 World Cup in South Africa should both teams proceed to the knockouts. Thankfully for India, they do not face Australia in the group stage of the T20 World Cup because Australia aren't one of the 4 opposition teams they would be playing in Group 2. And also thankfully for India, ahead of that all-important World Cup, they do have a tri-series in South Africa, also featuring West Indies, which not only gives them an invaluable opportunity to acclimatize themselves to the conditions, but it also serves as a chance for them to iron out some of the creases, many of the creases that emerged during India's series defeat to Australia on home soil. Hi, this is Anisha Ghosh, trying to make sense of all the awesomeness that Australia represent and why, despite the overwhelming look of the 4-1 scoreline, it's not all doom and gloom for Harmanpreet Kaur's India. For those of you who did not follow the series closely, here's how it went for both teams. India turned up at the first T20I at the D.Y. Patil Stadium and figured quite quickly that top-order Australia batter, Beth Mooney, despite having established herself as one of the undisputed superstars in the firmament of T20 batting of the current generation, still wanted to audition for the inaugural Women's IPL. So unsurprisingly, she made a match-winning contribution in that first T20I, and thereafter pretty much the entire Australian squad followed in the footsteps of Beth Mooney. So every opportunity more or less any player got, be it Ellis Perry, Grace Harris, Ashley Gardner, Annabel Sutherland, Heather Graham, Darcy Brown, they grabbed those opportunities with both hands and showed just how commanding they can be with bat or ball or both in Indian conditions. India did manage to win one game in the series, the second T20I at the D.Y. Patil Stadium. It was largely down to a final ball 4 in regulation time off the batter of Devika Vaidya that took India into a super over, which, courtesy the heroics of Smriti Mandhana and Richa Ghosh, India were able to find themselves on the winning side. Following that, the script for the remainder of the series became kind of linear. Australia winning, India losing, a big Australian partnership driving their victory, India's over-reliance on the big hitting awesomeness of teenager Richa Ghosh getting exposed time and again, and Harmanpreet Kaur consistently getting starts in the first 4 games of the 5-match series, but her inability to convert any of them costing India. Among the non-regulars in the Indian side, 25-year-old leg spin bowling all-rounder Devika Vaidya impressed a fair bit in what was only her second T20I series across 8 years. Vaidya, remember, has had a slew of professional and personal challenges on her way back into the Indian team, including the untimely passing of her mother a couple of years ago and a spate of ill-timed illnesses and injuries, which you can read about in a feature I wrote on Devika Vaidya's comeback for moneycontrol.com. The link is in the description. She featured in all 5 games of the India series, playing something of an enterprising accumulator in the Indian lineup with the bat, slotting in at either number 5 or number 7. With the ball too, she was quite handy, her leg spin accounting for the likes of Alyssa Healy, Beth Mooney, Elise Perry and Ashley Gardner. Vaidya's fellow 25-year-old Anjali Sarvani, the Railways left-arm pacer who made her international debut in this series, also showed promise. Like Vaidya, Sarvani seems to have done enough to retain her spot in the squads for the upcoming Tri-Series and the T20 World Cup. One can also say the same about Harleen Kaur Deol, who in her solitary innings in the series, which came in the 5th and final T20I, struck a spectacular 16-ball 24, having replaced Jemimah Rodrigues at number 3 in the Indian lineup. Following a slew of underwhelming scores from Rodrigues, another positive takeaway for India was Deepti Sharma, the number 3 ranked T20I all-rounder in the world, who seemed to have found a new gear in her batting, having struck her second T20I 50 in the final and 5th T20I. Looking ahead to the build-up to the T20 World Cup in South Africa, Australia World champions across limited overs formats, as well as Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games gold medalists, will be hosting Pakistan for an ODI series, which is part of the ICC Women's ODI Championship, as well as a T20I series in January before they leave for South Africa. As far as India are concerned, a key point of focus for them would be whether at all they get a head coach ahead of the South Africa tour. Because remember, Hrishikesh Kanitkar, who joined the squad just 3 days out from the start of the Australia tour, was appointed in the role of a batting coach, but he did oversee the proceedings in the Australia series in the capacity of an interim head coach, albeit unofficially. India were also without a bowling coach in the series, and on separate occasions, both Kanitkar and Harmanpreet raised the importance of a bowling coach within the backroom staff setup. And Kanitkar did mention on the eve of the final T20I that the BCCI is likely to appoint a bowling coach soon. Whether or not it all falls into place for India in time ahead of the T20 World Cup will determine whether their trophy cabinet remains empty or whether the elusive silverware they have been after for years eventually lands there. How happy will their new year be before the women's IPL kicks off? We'll find that out soon. Until then, it's goodbye from me on Nesha.